Donald Trump might be getting ready to rig the midterms. I'm definitely worried about it, and what he did today is disturbing and is potentially a harbinger of very bad news. So Elliot, why don't you tell us the whole story?
Yeah, so basically President Donald Trump went ahead and just kicked off all of the Democrats from the Bipartisan Election Commission. Just to repeat that again, he kicked off all the Democrats from the Bipartisan Election Commission, just in case you're like a fan of words, but it's called the Election Assistance Commission, or EAC, and here is more about what they do.
Established by the Help America Vote Act of 2002 as an independent bipartisan commission charged with helping Americans vote. The primary way we do that? By ensuring election officials have the support and resources they need. We help in a few ways. We craft and adopt the voluntary voting system guidelines, accredit test laboratories, and certify voting systems. Serve as the nation's clearinghouse of information and best practices related to elections. We also maintain the National Mail Voter Registration Form, which can be used to register to vote, update registration information with a new name or address, or register with a political party. And develop recommendations and standards that address the needs of voters, state and local election leaders, and other election stakeholders.
I mean, there you have it. I really love that music. I think everyone should listen to that if they're ever stuck in traffic. So historically, the EAC has been made up basically of 4 members, okay? So there's 2 that are Democrats and 2 that are Republicans. One of the Republicans resigned in April, and recently the other Republican was allowed to also resign. Since then, the 2 remaining Democrats have been pushed out. They received the following email from the White House. On behalf of President Donald J. Trump, I am writing to inform you that your position as Commissioner of the Election Assistance Commission is terminated, effective immediately. Thank you for your service. That is from the White House Presidential Personnel Office. So here is how the White House responded to a request for a comment from ProPublica. A White House official wouldn't confirm the specific actions taken, but they did say in a statement that the president reserves the right to remove individuals that may not be totally aligned with the important task of securing America's elections and ensuring every legal vote is counted. They also said the administration from the start has been working across all agencies and local partners to safeguard elections from fraud and abuse, and investing in a strong infrastructure to sustain that mission, especially in the midterm elections. So Trump will get to nominate replacements, which must be confirmed by the Senate. Meanwhile, Trump is badgering Congress to pass the Save America Act. So what is in the Save America Act, you ask? Well, there's a few key provisions. One is Americans would need proof of citizenship in order to register to vote. Americans would need to present a photo ID when they vote, and mail-in voting would be restricted. Now, obviously, critics of this act point to this is a solution in search of a problem. There's actually nothing really going on here, and it's actually going to disenfranchise other people, and you could consider it election meddling, but that's just my opinion. Cenk, what do you think about this?
Yeah, so look, let's put the SAVE Act aside because it's a little bit of a different issue, but in deconstructing this particular commission, does it help or hurt in stopping voter fraud, getting legitimate people to vote? Well, it definitely hurts, because part of what they did, as you just saw in that video, is they set some guidelines and rules which prevent people from doing voter fraud. And it's bipartisan, so it's not like, oh, it's a Democratic plot and they're gonna get, because these are the kind of demagoguery that happens in other factions of the media. So our job is to correct that stuff. So in this case, it can't be any of the, getting the illegal immigrants to vote and all that stuff. No, there's 2 Republicans on the commission. Obviously, they never allowed that and haven't. So I shouldn't have to state that, but these days you have to combat the things that people say. They don't even say it about this commission. This is just a thing that came out of the blue, but they say it in general, right? So the second thing is that they generally help you vote, right? They make it an easier process, but a legitimate process you have to go through, right? And there's 2 reasons why Trump is potentially doing this. One is, generally speaking, they want less people to vote. Now, if you think, wait, Cenk, why would they want less people to vote? If the Republicans are going to win or they think they have an advantage, wouldn't they want more people to vote? Well, there's two parts to that. Number one, historically, higher voter turnout helps Democrats. So Republicans generally don't want higher voter turnout. They certainly want it on their side, but they don't want it on the other side. And as a general thing, they try to bring down voter turnout, less voters. And that's part of why they don't want the mail-in votes. Now, if you're a Republican citizen, you might think, I'm heard from somewhere that mail-in votes is more ripe for fraud, and I'm concerned about that. Now, I don't think that's true, but that's your legitimate opinion, right? That's your genuine opinion, I should say. But Republican politicians know that there's almost no fraud from mail-in voting. Right-wing think tanks like the Heritage Foundation have investigated it for decade after decade, and they just can't find any. Like the last time they did a report, it was about 0.0000006%, right? I try to keep in mind the 6 zeros there, so like infinitesimally small. So those politicians know that the reason they're against mail-in ballots is because they want less people to vote. So that's terrible, but fairly standard Republican politics. It's definitely very standard Trump politics. I'm worried about the second part. So I'm also worried about the first part, but I'm kind of used to it. The second part is, he did an executive order earlier where he was trying to monkey around with how this, this particular body works. So now he's gonna get to appoint a bunch of people here, and God knows what rules he's gonna try to do and how he's gonna try to limit the voting and affect the voting. And the reason why they're more animated about it now than even normally is because the polling indicates the Republicans are gonna get their asses handed to them in the midterms. So Trump's like, okay, all right, let's fire the independent commission that was bipartisan and even and actually try to help people to vote, but in a legitimate way. I don't want legitimate. I don't want people voting. We're gonna lose. So now let's do something illegitimate. And firing them is the first step in doing that. So we've got to see what he does with this next. But Elliot, that's deeply concerning, especially because of the mindset that it seems like Trump and the Republicans think they can't win unless they cheat doing things like this.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like there's been a lot of talk since he was elected for a second time, where everyone's been saying, yeah, he's going to try to stop the elections from happening, or he's going to interfere with the elections in some way. And I will say that at least on my account, I've been like, that's probably not going to happen. That's a little dramatic. But stuff like this does make me worry a little bit. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, and I'm definitely worried about it. And guys, again, once you let anyone in power start monkeying around with the voting process, they're not gonna do it just to help one side or the other. They're gonna do it to help the very, very powerful, the people who can rig voting systems. And that is gonna be against all of us. Protecting the sanctity of the vote is monumentally important. Otherwise, whatever little power we have as voters now will be completely taken away from us. So we can't let that happen as Americans. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.